Welcome to FlightGlobal Focus, our new weekly podcast. My name is Dominic Perry and I'm European aerospace editor. Joining me for this aerospace-focused episode is David Kaminski-Morrow, our air transport editor.
Hello, Dominic. Pleasure to be here.
We are both back from Dubai and feeling a little bit worse the wear for long flights. But it was a Dubai air show this week, so that was more exciting than usual. David, how did you find it?
Oh, it was... I'm not sure how to describe it. It was busy and it was hot, I think is the simple summary. But Dubai, it's still an air show, I think, where big orders are expected, and there's certainly plenty of that during the week, and probably more than there has been of late. So there was no real shortage of big things to write about. I don't know if you found the same. But.
Yeah, I certainly thought it was hot, but that almost goes without saying with Dubai. But it did seem like a busy show. Like you say, the big mega orders were back, which maybe we were missing for the past couple of editions of that show. But it felt like Emirates and Etihad and Fly Dubai were all wanting to spend again. And yeah, we've almost come to expect it. So when you're confronted with 150 aircraft orders, sometimes you think, oh, right, just another one these days. But it's become so commonplace.
I think you're right. I think you kind of almost get spoiled with the numbers a bit. I mean, once upon a time, 20 aircraft or 30 aircraft was considered a big order, and now nobody seems to be satisfied unless it's in triple figures. I mean, we were looking at just there was an order from Ethiopian Airlines for 6 A350s during the show, and once upon a time that would have been quite a substantial deal. But it's almost gone by the by, because the Gulf carriers have done their magic trick of coming up with huge numbers and huge dollar figures again, and it seems very much that's really what Dubai likes to specialize in at the moment.
It does sometimes feel that everything else gets eclipsed just by the sheer weight of numbers from those Gulf carriers, and they could almost dominate the agenda, which it's their home turf and that's what the show's for. So I get it. But what struck me as interesting though was the way the orders broke down. You know, we had Fly Dubai potentially, I suppose, ordering A321neos, and Emirates. Okay, it topped up with some more A350-900s, but there was no 1,000 order. And although it doubled down on its 777X commitment, what was more interesting about that was the fact that I don't know whether it's launched or is trying to persuade Boeing to launch the -10 version of that aircraft.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was really probably the most interesting aspect of the Emirates announcement is, I mean, it almost seems heresy to suggest that the 65 777Xs was almost a sideshow, but it kind of feels like that. And in that Sheikh Ahmed, who was there at the press event, he almost dared Boeing to go away and stretch this aeroplane beyond the 777-9. You know, Emirates clearly wants a larger aircraft. We know that because it was pushing Airbus to revamp the A380 for a long time and not really getting very far with that. And then eventually, of course, Airbus canned the A380 program. And that's really left Emirates without an avenue to go down other than 777X and potentially the A350-1000, if they can be satisfied by the engine situation on the 1000, which of course at the moment they're not. And it's almost as if it's really a case of the high capacity end of the market doesn't have enough options to satisfy Emirates. So it's pushing for a bit of daring, if you like, from either Boeing or Airbus, or maybe even both, to satisfy its need for some kind of large aeroplane expansion. But I can't really see that either Boeing or Airbus is in the mood for that at the moment. I think Boeing, they've both got big things on their plate at the moment. Boeing is still trying to get 777X certified, and that's just been pedestrian. It's years behind schedule. Airbus has got the A350 up and running, but It's got its own issues. It wants to ramp up A350 production, but that depends on the whole Spirit Aerosystems deal going through and sorting out the problems there. Airbus has got plenty of supply chain issues that it needs to get on with. And likewise with Boeing. I don't think either of them are in the mood really to be launching into a new aircraft program, even if it's just a stretch of their largest model, and certainly not wanting to do that just for one customer, even if it's a really important customer like Emirates.
I think it was you that was telling me that Stephanie Pope, who heads up Boeing's commercial aircraft business, almost looked surprised when the Emirates grandee said, "Oh, and we're going to study the Dash 10 and that this could be our new high-capacity aircraft." Does Airbus then respond with a stretch of the A350, the Dash 2000 that it keeps talking about?
That's the really key question in the whole thing, is that you almost feel as though both sides would like a non-aggression pact, but the question is what happens if one of them decides to be bold and go with stretching the large model. If Boeing says, all right, we are going to develop Dash 10, does that mean Airbus has to respond? Does it really want to respond? I doubt it. But it's really going to depend on whether there's a sufficient market for that aeroplane. I don't think that Emirates on its own is going to be enough justification for developing the larger model. And I think you kind of saw that from the reluctance of Airbus to do much with the A380 just on Emirates' wishes. I think to put in the investment to build what would still be a very, very expensive large aircraft, I think it really needs a much more diverse market for that size aeroplane. And then the A380 showed that markets for very large aircraft are not necessarily there yet. The 777 is popular because of the size it is, and the A350 likewise. And I don't see huge demand for anything bigger at the moment. It'll all change. If that changes, then it's a different ballgame. But I don't see any market for a much larger aeroplane at the moment.
It would also require, for the stretch of the A350, Rolls-Royce to come back with an even more powerful version of the Trent XWB. And just to go back to your point that neither of the two big airframers want to do another project because they've got so much on their plate at the moment, the same is true of Rolls-Royce. They're dealing with all the durability issues on the Trent engine family that they're currently progressing with. And I don't think they have the capacity or appetite to do yet another project. They want to fix the issues they've got, not least with the XWB 97, which in theory opens the door for Emirates to finally commit to the A350 1000, which I didn't really expect it at this show, simply because Rolls hasn't proven that technology yet. It's got another 2 years of development in front of it. So I thought it was always a long shot that Emirates would commit at this point. But I think you pointed out as well that although it's taken some more 900s, it will be fairly easy to convert some of that backlog to 1000s if that's what it wants to do at a later stage. I thought it was striking, though, that all the engine makers were talking about durability fixes. Pratt & Whitney said they're getting on top, finally, of their issues on the geared turbofan. CFM have said the same about the LEAP. GE, Rolls-Royce, they're all trying to make their engines better, particularly for that really challenging Middle East environment. I assume they will all get there, but it's been a trial for them all, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it seems to have become a characteristic of new engines that the more the engines have advanced, the more the durability issue has come to the fore. I remember one of head of a European airline was telling me fairly recently that he compared it all to old-fashioned washing machines, which were very robust and just went on for years and years and years. But a modern washing machine constantly needs to have its parts replaced and doesn't seem to be as reliable. And he said it's very much the same for the engines on his aircraft. that they don't stay on the wing anywhere near as long, and it's a consequence of technological advancement, bizarrely.
Is there anything else that caught your eye at the show? I mean, what for you was the standout aircraft or the standout announcement? I mean, for me, one of the most interesting things was seeing the Su-57 flying. As morally questionable as that may be, it's always intriguing to see a new bit of kit arriving at a show. So that was quite cool. Just seeing the Joby, whatever it's called, eVTOL flying, that was also interesting. Very, very quiet. You could walk along the flight line while that was performing, and all you would hear was the ground power units from everything that was parked.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, you mentioned the Sukhoi 57, which I mean that did put on an extraordinary display. I mean, I remember when the Russians first brought some of their combat aircraft to Farnborough, and it was a really, really big draw because we hadn't really seen anything like that at Western air shows before, and there was kind of that kind of feel watching the 57 fly, and it does these quite extraordinary aerobatics, which for a big aeroplane is quite hypnotic to watch. And I think you're right. At the other end of the spectrum, you had these up and coming eVTOLs, and they are small and agile and incredibly quiet, and they're very, very futuristic. And that market, I know you've covered that market in considerable depth over the past sort of couple of years, and it does seem to be a sector that is still finding its way in some respects, but in others, you're starting to see some of the more promising projects really emerging. Things like vertical aerospace and the VX4 and projects along those lines.
What amused me, or what I thought was noteworthy maybe, was that whereas at other air shows, sustainability seems to be the number one topic, or certainly the number one topic that the air show organisers would like you to be talking about, there doesn't seem to be very much of that at Dubai. I don't know whether that's a factor of the Dubai show or whether it's just where the industry is at the moment, but there didn't seem to be the usual barrage of announcements about SAF, about hydrogen, this, that, and the other. It was just, we're buying more aircraft.
I used to be quite cynical about the whole sustainability thing because every airline was interested in cutting fuel burn, and therefore sustainability, reducing carbon emissions came as a kind of a free bit of bonus PR on top of that, because it was a natural consequence of reducing your fuel burn. But in recent years, sustainability has become a driver in its own right. And there's so much interest now in doing that. There's a lot of promotional interest, a lot of PR interest. Some of it, I think, is still very self-serving, but I do think there is this underlying genuine interest in exploring sort of alternative energies. I think it's kind of moving in the right direction. It still needs a lot of pushing, and there's still a lot of effort that has to be put in to try and make it work. And some of the projections on where we're going to be come 2050 are probably a little exaggerated. But I think the movement towards sustainability has become so large that it generates things like new technologies, new innovations, and all those things play a part in the future of aerospace. They generate new ideas and new concepts, and it's good for the industry in general.
Well, on that note, I guess we can probably wrap things up there. So thank you very much for joining me, David. It's been a pleasure as always.
Pleasure for me too, Dominic.
FlightGlobal Focus is your new essential podcast for trusted aviation insight. We publish new episodes twice weekly. Join us on Friday for a concise news briefing, and on Monday for in-depth analysis covering airlines, defence and aerospace. FlightGlobal Focus is a production of FlightGlobal with audio editing by Lucy Johnson. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or for commercial opportunities, please email podcast@flightglobal.com, and more information can be found in the show notes. Listeners can get a discount to a new subscription to Flight Global with the code FGPodcast. Terms and conditions apply. And if you listen on Spotify, leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the show and if there are any topics you want us to cover. Listen, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.